be strong.
Hello there. Good afternoon. It's afternoon here. I thought I'd do a live build. Probably do more of these because it's a good way to show different scenarios and examples of how Macanta can work for you in your business. So what we're doing here today is a legal claims management system. So starting from scratch, I'll share my screen in a moment, and showing you the whole process of doing that initial build. Of course, once you do the initial build, there's always detail and things that need to come into it, but it'll give you a good idea of the kinds of things we do and kind of things you can do with Macanta. So just to say, on my other screen, when I look down, I'll have a spreadsheet with some details that was provided by the client of the different field types and that they want on there. So it's not all just in my head, and it's a good way to get started. So let's switch over to the screen and we can get going. Just move this across. Cool. So all I've done, this is a blank app. All I've done is I've clicked around to stop the in-app guides and stuff, but there's nothing built. It's just a no template, empty account. And what we know is it's claims management and it's going to be cases or claims. So we'll start off by adding our relationships and our data object type. So we go to our object builder. Contact is there by default. That's fine. If I go and add a relationship, we will have the client and the solicitor. And let's add a file handler for the moment. And we'll leave it at that for our relationships. So we go and create our object. And we're going to say that for this object, it's going to be claims. And the reason it's named in the multiple is just when you look on the sidebar, if it just says claim, and you then get there and there's 5 on the record, that can be confusing and it can hold multiple. So it's where claims are stored. So always tend to name those in the multiple. So we're going to have a client, file handler, and a solicitor. So that's now just selecting that out of all the relationships in the account, in Macanta here, for claims, these are the available ones. So if you have more data object types, you'll have more relationships, and some are suitable on some and others not. So then just to give you an idea here where we have the details, so you can choose, should there be allowed to be more than one solicitor on a claim? I'd say no, and we don't want anything auto-assigned at this stage. We can save that. Client, again, is only going to be one, and it's going to be the contact we're viewing in this instance. We'll auto-assign. That's Martha the cat complaining. We'll have one file handler per case, and that'll be the logged in user. So when I'm the logged in user and I look at it, I'll then be auto-assigned when I manually create a new case for that. So let me go and save that. Next we can go on to our sections and to our fields, adding that. So our first section is just going to be the claim details, and we'll add that in. And then if I look at my spreadsheet subsection, we'll just have the overview, and we can start adding some fields in. So we'll add in claim type. And this is going to be a select field with the options of car finance or UDC. And in this instance, we don't need to, for the moment, worry about any of the others. Items here, whether it's required, context specific, or adding a divider. We can just leave it as it is there. That's our first field, and then we can go on and say file reference. Just give me a second. The cat is never perform live with animals and children. So file reference, and that's just going to be free text. We don't know what that's going to look like. Add that, and then let's just see what have we got on here. First name, last name, client address and email and phone number will be part of the actual contact details. The best time to call we can add here. And that is a date time field, so a bit of a scheduling element there. And then what have we got? So now we can go for here. So vehicle details, and we'll say manufacturer. I'll just leave that as text. And the vehicle reg. Then we can have the agreement details. And you'll see I'm just making these up, as in coming up with what they are, and then we can review and see if they're appropriate. You can obviously you create the sections and subsections as it makes sense for your business. So we've got type of agreement, and here we have the options. So we go for select again, and we've got PCP and HP, and where are we? Lender name. Text, loan date, and loan amount, can set that as a decimal value, and then what have we got? Loan amount, so let's go and add here the loan status, I think would be suitable. And here we will have IBA or bank bankruptcy checked. Just have that as a checkbox with the only option is yes. I'll actually add another option of no, and we'll set the default value as no. So then it always has to be checked to yes. So we'll have that. And then we can have arrears or default checked again, and we go for a checkbox. Default value will be yes, and then we'll have just, I think it might be useful here to just have loan status comments, because we have a checkbox to say we've checked these details, but it says yes or no, but then no further information there. So that's our sort of initial pass there. So now we can go and I'll add another section called tracking, and then we just say see lead details, add that, and we'll add a field called IP address, and we'll have a CE unique ID, which I think we can auto generate, and we'll have a location, which in this instance is a number. Let's go for a whole number. Add that. So now in my head, as I'm thinking through this, I think, well, we need some stages for the claim, or how far has this gone through the process. So we'll just add this here, claim status, and I can confirm with the client later what those stages need to be, but we can guess at some. So it is new claim, active claim, successful claim, and claim. So we'll have those just as the initial, add that field, and I would actually add that, move that up to the top. So now I know that in there we've got those new, active, successful and unsuccessful claim. So I want to track the dates that we move through those. So we'd have here date tracking, and I can go in and say new claim date, and it's going to be a date field, and that in there, and then add the last one there. So because we're going to auto populate these data as we move through the stages, so we'll add that there. So I reckon for the moment that's really all we need for a claim, the information. So we go to the display settings. Now here is where I choose, okay, what information do I want to see when I first look at claims? So I want to see the type, the status and the type, and perhaps the file reference, and then maybe loan status comments. I don't think we need, let's have new claim date, just so that we know. So we can add those in, and we can then move them around as we need to, if they want. Then you have the option to set section conditions. We don't have anything for that in this claim, but basically what it would mean is, let's say the tracking, if you've got two sections, if I go back, if we've got two sections, then I can say, well, actually only show the tracking tab if a field on the claims details tab matches a particular value, but we don't need any of that here, so I'll leave that out, and we can create our object. So that's now there. So if I go and look at this record, claims is now available on the left, and when I go to add, I've got those details there, my default values, I've got my tracking, that's everything there. I'm being assigned the file handler because I'm the logged in user. So let's just close that off. So now what we can also do is we can go and create our widgets, where for the dashboard we want to be able to easily access the 4 stages, and the same would happen for our workflow board. So let's go and set up our workflow board perhaps first. So we're going to add one, it's going to be claims. Data object type is going to be claims. And now I choose a key field. and I'm going to choose claim status because that's going to determine what columns I have on my workflow board. The relationship is going to be client because I want to see the client's information. We want some color, not just monochrome. I'm going to display first name, last name, email and phone, and then also the let's go and find, we'll display the ID, not the claim status because that's our column, claim type, and perhaps the file reference. So we'll have those details there, and I can save that. Okay, so now we have our workflow board there, so I should now be able to go here, and you can see we've now got a new claim, active claim, successful claim, and unsuccessful claim, and if I had other workflow boards, I'll be able to choose them there. So let's have a look at widgets. I can go in to the query builder, and I want to say create one for new claims. Object type is claims, and we're going to say where the claim status is new claim, and again the relationship here is going to be client. I can say logged in user. I've got the option here to say that the file handler is just the logged in user rather than any of the others. It just depends on what we want. For the moment we can leave that out. We don't need to set that. It's just so that you can have it if you've got multiple users logging in, they'll only see their leads or their options. So again, for this we're going to have up to the phone number, and then we'll go with the ID. Here we will have the claim status because I might want to move that in the inline editor, which you'll see later on. So we've got those details there, and we've got that as new claims, and I can save that. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot here so that I remember what fields we've added so that they're all the same, and that's open on the other screen. So now that I've got that saved, I now just go and create the others. So let me do that. So and it's where the claim status is active, and the relationship is client, and again first, last, email, phone, and we've got unique ID, claim status, claim type, and file reference. Save that. Successful claims. One unsuccessful. Status is unsuccessful claim, and client okay, so we save that. So we've got our widgets there, and now I can go to my dashboard and I can go and add those. And in user permissions you can, for particular roles in the business, you can say what widgets they have access to and what widgets are on their dashboard by default. But for this example I'll just do these this way. So now we've got our dashboard, we've got our workflow boards, and we've got our claims. So let's go and have a look at what that is like. So I'm going to add a contact here. And I'm going to save the contact. So now I'm looking at Erwin. I can see Erwin has no claims. If I like to add an item, then you'll see Erwin has been assigned the client, I've been assigned the file handler. And we can then go, we can set this to be default to new claim if we need to. Claim type's going to be that. File reference we don't have at the moment. We can add best time to call, any of these details. And then under tracking, we've got no further information at this stage. So I can go and save that and then just show you the impact of that. So now I have this case here in new claims for Erwin. I can see here under relationships who's the file handler. So when I go to the file handler, I can see that same case under the claims there. If I go to the workflow board, I have the case there or claim, and I can see all the details as I need it to be. As a logged in user, I've got this notification that I've been connected to a new claim, so I can click on that and see the details of the claim right away. And then when we go to our dashboard, we now have one new claim available. So that's sort of the basic setup. We can do a lot with that already, but let's just add some automation. So in this instance, the automation we're going to add, if I open a claim, is we want to auto-generate a unique ID here, and we want to auto set these dates as well. So you may be aware, you may not, automation lives under admin, and at the moment automation is still in the old interface. So we just go through to the other interface. Should auto log you in when you go via that, but it's regardless, it is just the same login details as you would normally use, albeit a bit slower. So then I can go to automation. So I'll jump between these two tabs just because of us still being in the process of migrating everything. So what I want to do first is generate this unique ID here. Okay. So for that, we need to run a field action as our starting point. So we're going to create here and say generate unique ID. That's what we call it. A data object type. Because of the mixed interfaces, I'll have to log out and log back in before it becomes available, unfortunately. There we go. So let me just go back to that. Automation, field action. It should now be available for me. Generate. I can see claims. And the action type I want is ticket number for the relationship client. So the ticket number, a prefix. So here you can say, where do we start? We're going to start with 1000. The prefix, we're just going to do CE dash. And the field I want that written into is going to be the CE unique ID. Okay, so we save that. And then we go to a trigger action because we need that in there. It's going to be a payload, which you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. So we can just save that. Okay. And then I can go and create my condition. So when should a code be generated? So we're going to say here, if the unique ID is not, or let's say is null. So when there's nothing in that field, I want it to generate a code. Now the restart after here is, do you want this to ever run again? So if someone deletes the code, do you want it to generate a new code? Or how frequently do you want this to run? So I would do never, because if it's not a unique, if it runs more than once, then someone keeps changing the code, that causes issues. But let's say, for instance, you were counting how old an opportunity was, and every day you want to increment a number that it's now 3 days old, 4 days old. Then you're going to set this to be 1 day. We're going to set this to never because we don't want it to run again. So we go with client, and then I just go and find that CE field, and I say is null. So when that field is null, I want this automation to run. Now in the old interface, you can see why we're migrating to the new one. You have to refresh for the HTML to see these new elements. So we go back. Now we go to our trigger action, and here under field actions we now can load the generate unique ID into it for here. I can also set it to update some fields here, but I won't do that just yet. And then I can go and set up an automation group, which we'll call claims. And then I can just say, if the unique ID is null, generate a unique ID. And I save that. So in not too long a time, this automation will run and will create that unique ID. The other thing we wanted to do was write these dates on the stage changes, so that when this moves to active claim, that date is updated as the active claim date. So we need 4 automations for that. So let's go and build that. So we go to our trigger action again, and we say set new claim date. That's the first one. We're setting it to today. Go again with our claim client, and here we're just setting a field value. I can type date, new claim date, and you can just use the word today, and it'll then write in the date of the day that this runs. So let's add active claim date, claims client, and we go again to date, and we're on active. And for example, if you wanted to set this date for whatever automation for 2 days from today, you just say 2 days, 5 days, 3 weeks, whatever future time you want. Active successful claim date. Save that, and we do our last one here, new claim date and unsuccessful claim date. Okay, so those are all the actions we're going to take. So we need a matching condition for each of those. So we're just going to say if case or claim status is active, let's start with new claim, then we run. Again, we're going to do this on never, because we're setting that date once, and its claim status is new claim. Save that. Active claim. And we have save that. So we've got our triggers and our conditions and our actions. So we just refresh again. And in this instance, I'm going to create a new automation group called dates. And these don't really do anything, it's just folder structure for organizing. So we're going to say new claim. I know I need 4 of them. Active claim, successful, and unsuccessful. New, active. Turn those on, and click save. So those are now set, and we can come back here and just see what has happened. If I go to history, we can see in the automation history that unique ID is null, condition triggered generate unique ID, and therefore we can see claim status, new claims when we were making changes, and that has generated that ID. So if I now open up here, go to tracking, we have that ID there. So in a moment, because this case is set to new claim, we will see that automation run. Now, while we wait for that, it won't take long, but in the meantime, under these trigger actions, you have the option to add an email action. So any of the email actions you build here becomes available to you as a payload. Same for SMS becomes available here. All the different kinds of field actions that you have in here, which you got several of, calculations, generating ticket numbers, action counters, referencing 2 dates, how long has it been since a particular date, time difference between 2 dates, humanize the dates, clear out fields, and the number date is where you say this field A contains this date, add 100 days to it and write the value into the new date, round robin, next available number. So you got those options, and then contact action is for notes and tasks, user action is for in-app notifications. And once you build them there, they all then become available in their respective, including, I skipped webhooks, but that's to send to other pieces of software or something. So you can add multiple payloads on the same action for that. So if I then go back to here, let's see what's happened. We have history. I can see set new claim date has run. So when I now look at my case, then I can see that's today's date. Now, obviously, any change I make here, you're going to think today means today. It isn't. It'll be, if I make a change tomorrow, tomorrow's date will go in. The today gets passed to be today's date. But I can now move this over here to, this is now an active claim, we're busy with it, we've picked it up, and again I've got access to the history, and I can see the active claim date has now been set to today. And if I go and have a look, then we have it there. And I have my information, notes I can add, attachments. So yeah, so that's a working system. Obviously there's lots of other additional things that can or need to be added, creating tasks, and this system in particular will have an API integration added so that the new cases in the new context, these claims are fired in via the API, and they'll then appear on someone's dashboard, so you can see that case is now moved to active. I can go in to see the details, I can go to the contact, I can preview the contact, but with full edit functionality without losing my place in my list. I can do inline editing, send emails. If there was a text, a number there, I could send a text, and then I can see these details here, and I also have access to the full claim information as well as this menu. This menu is pretty universal and accessible from almost anywhere in the app. So yeah, so that is the end of that. So pretty much done there. Hope that's useful. Any questions, give me a shout and post here with this video, wherever you need. and I'll be more than happy to help. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I have for you today. And be safe. Take care. Be strong.